Coming to you from Milwaukee, Wisconsin by way of Stone Mountain, Georgia. Birthed by the great state of South Carolina is the Bryant Land Country Podcast. Your place for any and everything in hunting, fishing, sports, and outdoor related, with heavy doses of randomness, guests, and an all-around good time. Here's your host, proud Gamecock, South Carolina forever, AB3.
You know, this past weekend, which by the time this drops will be 2 weekends ago, Sunday, I had a chance to take in the NWA, National Wrestling Alliance pay-per-view, the Crockett Cup. And if you know anything about wrestling, the NWA back, in the 80s, late 70s, mid 80s, that was the premier wrestling promotion. I mean, I grew up on the NWA, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, the Four Horsemen, Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, the Road Warriors, Nikita Koloff, like all those guys are the guys that I grew up with. I watched the Crockett Cup pay-per-view. It was, a partnership between the NWA and the Ring of Honor promotion. It was really good, very nostalgic pay-per-view. They had the old NWA ring, the way that they did the production value, with the graphics and the lighting and the treatment, in the arena. I mean, it was really, really, really cool. So if you remember the old NWA days, the way, like I said, they did this with the NWA champion Nick Aldis defending his title. Briscoe Brothers tag team got disqualified, and then another tag team, I can't remember the name, that actually won the Crockett Cup. But it was a great all-around pay-per-view. Jim Cornette did color commentary with two other guys I've never heard of before. But like I said, if you were a fan of the NWA back in the day when they were in their heyday, it might be worth going to check out. I watched it online, Fight TV, pumped it through, my Apple TV, so I had it on my screen, and it was great. Nice, relaxing Sunday evening watching some old school wrestling. So yeah, if you get time, go check it out. This is the Bryant Land Country Podcast. I am the host, AB3, and yes, we talk about all kinds of random things on the podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you for joining us. As the little man at the beginning told you, we talk about things, hunting, fishing, outdoors, but we also talk about a lot of random things, sports, wrestling, just stuff that I find. So, yeah, don't let it discourage you. You are in the right place. You're going to get your hunting, your fishing, your outdoor, your ATV riding, all that stuff. But I just wanted to drop a little thought or two on the Crockett Cup pay-per-view first. Now that I got that out the way, I can get to my guest. My guest this week is Josh Honeycutt from Realtree. Josh writes for the Realtree website, a lot of their deer articles, deer hunting articles and stuff. You can check Josh out on the Realtree website. Josh also writes with his own blog, Brow Tines and Backstrap, through Realtree. So he was a really good guest to have. We talked, a little bit about deer hunting, the NWTF being down in South Carolina. We talked about that. And then just, his duties with Realtree and things that he's learned along the way, shooting deer, with a camera, and, just being out in the wild covering deer hunting for Realtree. So it's a really good time. So what I'm going to do is, per usual, I'm going to fall back and I'm going to let you guys listen to my conversation with Josh Honeycutt from Realtree. All right, Josh Honeycutt from Realtree. How's it going, brother?
Going good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for taking the time, man. I wanted to get you on just because I personally read a lot of your work, a lot of the stuff that you do for Realtree, and just, the articles, deer articles, turkey and everything, man. You do good work. So I just wanted to get you on and have a conversation here for my audience.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks. I appreciate the invitation.
Awesome. So now I was doing a little bit of research, and it says you grew up in Kentucky. Now, do you still live and work out of Kentucky, or are you in Georgia down at Realtree?
That's correct. I still do live remote or work remotely in Kentucky.
Nice. Great gig if you can get it. To be able to work from home. How long have you been writing, and what turned you on to get into outdoor writing and stuff?
I started whenever I was in high school, senior in high school. I knew I wanted to have a career in the outdoor industry. I didn't know exactly what that would entail or what that career would end up being, but I just tried to match what I thought my skill set was to a potential career in the outdoor industry. And so I started writing, freelance writing for different magazines and websites in the outdoor realm, and just kind of snowballed from there. Started out writing for a small publication called Kentucky Outdoors Magazine. Did some stuff for some other publications as well. And gradually started writing for some bigger publications such as Field and Stream, Outdoor Life, North American Whitetail, and some others. And just kind of grew. Ended up going to work for the National Wild Turkey Federation full time. And then Realtree offered me a job shortly after that. That's where I still am today.
Nice. So now let's backtrack a little bit, because I can certainly appreciate knowing in high school what you pretty much wanted to do. It's the same thing for me, working in sports television production. I pretty much knew when I was in high school that I wanted to be a director and that I wanted to work in television. How did you get that love for the outdoors? I'm assuming, is that something you grew up in? Like, who introduced you to the outdoors? Was it a father, your grandfather, grandmother? Or like, how old were you when you got started in the outdoors, and what kind of cultivated your love for it?
Yeah, I was raised in the outdoors by my father and my grandfather. They both kind of instilled that passion for me. It was interesting because my dad was a big deer hunter, so he got me into the deer hunting side of things. And my grandfather was a big turkey hunter, and so he was kind of the reason for me getting into turkey hunting. And then once I came along and they both started teaching me the respective trades on either side there, we all kind of started doing all of it together, and so now we hunt just about anything we can. Here in Kentucky where I am, we don't have a lot of good waterfowl hunting. I have some decent upland bird, just quail, but not great. So we still primarily just deer and turkey hunt, but we do it all, together, enjoy the different seasons that are offered. But it's both my father and grandfather who are responsible for instilling that passion.
Nice. About how old were you when you first got out there with them?
Gosh, I don't know my exact age. I know I was going to the woods with my dad as pretty much as soon as I could walk. Now, I don't remember my age. I'd have to go back and look at some photos to know whenever I got my first deer, but I was still fairly young still. I was probably in the third or fourth grade, I would imagine, whenever I got my first deer, and probably around in there somewhere, maybe a little bit later on whenever I got my first turkey. But I was going to the woods with them pretty much as soon as I could walk, because I do some of my earliest memories are sitting in the woods with them.
Nice. That's awesome. Now, did you guys have like your own farm or like your own land to hunt, or did you just kind of like lease or like hunt with friends or whatever?
Yeah, back then, and even now still, we do have access to some family land. I have a very big agricultural background too, and a big part of my family on both sides, my father's side and my mother's side, are in the ag industry, and either they farm full-time or they at least farm part-time. So we have access and permission to hunt a good bit of family land, and that's kind of pretty much back then. We all of our hunting was either done on land that we had permission to hunt on, family land that we had permission to be on. We would knock on doors and get permission that way too. We don't do as much hunting now. I've personally done a pretty good bit of public land hunting since I've gotten older, but back then we didn't do much because in this area of Kentucky, South Central Kentucky, there's just not a lot of public land available. There are some WMAs, some state land, but not a lot. Primarily in the state of Kentucky, all of you public lands are on the eastern side and the western sides of the state. So we didn't do much public land hunting back then, but I have since I got older. But yeah, that's kind of where it started at. Back then, of course, that was quite a few years ago, so it was still a little bit easier back then than it is perhaps now to get permission by knocking on doors and stuff like that. But that was pretty much how we did it.
Certainly. Yeah, you don't hear a lot about, people still going out and knocking on doors. It's funny when ever I read stuff online and just different ways to access hunting land and stuff. You know, you always, first thing is either, you know, public land, obviously, and then it's like, you know, outfitters or friends or family if you have that option. And then always like that last option is the, you know, knocking on doors and just going around talking to local farmers and things of that nature. And it's funny, you know, how it reverts. Like I said, a lot of things that I read, that's the last option. But when you were growing up in your time, that was the primary option if you didn't already have a place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, today we do we do lease a place. We still have permission to hunt a lot of the places that we did, and I'm fortunate to hunt a lot of the places that I grew up hunting still. But we do lease a property together, my grandfather, father, and my uncle, myself, that we hunt on primarily for deer. We turkey hunt on it too. But yeah, I'm just trying to find ways to get access to quality ground, and that's a tough thing for a lot of people, especially new hunters today. The access is not great, and that is a problem. If there's not a lot of public land available, it can be a challenging issue for new hunters to overcome. So that's probably one of the biggest problems and threats to deer hunting today. But that's another discussion, I guess.
Yeah, no, but actually, you know, it kind of ties in because you mentioned new hunters, and a lot of my audience are new hunters. A lot of the guests that I've had have been new hunters and just coming on and documenting their journey and just talking about, you know, where they are so far. And I mean, I've had them on from, you know, New York and then from down south. And definitely that's one of the things that they talk about is just going out and being able to gain access. So no, it's definitely, like you said, if you're new and you're just starting out and you're not blessed or fortunate enough to have your own land, trying to find a place to go is definitely going to be a priority, because, you know, once you put in all the time and learn the skills and doing all the practice and stuff, you want to have some way to play, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it can be tough, but it's luckily there's a lot of good programs out there available now, a lot of good conservation organizations that are working hard to help make that process a little bit easier and a little simpler and to get people involved. So that's good.
Now, I'm going to get back to your journey in a second, but you also brought up something else that kind of triggered a couple other questions. I mean, we're in the middle of turkey season, and I started turkey hunting really hard probably last year. You know, about a year before that, you know, I hunted a little bit, didn't know what I was doing. I could admit it. Jury's still out on whether or not I know what I'm doing now. But with turkey hunting, and you brought it up, is that your favorite of the two between turkey and deer hunting?
It's hard to say. I mean, I'm primarily, I would say I do both, and I'm very into both deer and turkey hunting. I would have a hard time choosing if I had to just pick one or the other. But yeah, I love them both. I guess the way I always respond to that question is I would rather hunt a turkey than hunt a deer, but I'd rather shoot a deer than shoot a turkey. And I don't think that makes sense to a lot of people.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
But yeah. But no, there's a lot of really cool things and cool aspects to both. And again, I don't think I could choose one over the other if I had to.
Because turkeys you can kind of take the fight to them. Like, you know, I prefer personally to hunt in a ground blind, you know where birds are, and then, you know, put out a couple decoys and hunt from a ground blind. But I've also experienced, you know, running gun. And I mean, I guess you can do that with deer, but, you know, primarily most deer hunting is stand sitting and, you know, or blind sitting. So your turkeys, you can kind of take the fight to them a little bit more.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And, you know, it's, there's cool aspects to both. You know, I'm a fairly aggressive turkey hunter. There's obviously, really cool aspects to both, and, different styles that you can, and tactics that you can implement, that changes it up and makes it, you know, changes the pace of the hunt in both aspects in both regards. But it's fun, and, both deer and turkey, they offer their challenges and their rewards, but they're both great for people to enjoy and get out there and do.
Now, when you say you're an aggressive turkey hunter, what does that mean to Josh? Like, explain to my audience, you know, what are you out there doing? Are you reaping? Are you, you know, just always like on the go, like running and gunning? Or what's your description of aggressive turkey hunting?
Again, I don't know if I guess I would be considered an aggressive turkey hunter, because a lot of people will sit down and they'll hunt the same spot for 2 or 3, 4 hours at a time. And I typically don't do that. I'm typically more on the go. Now, every situation is different. If I'm hunting a small property, and I can't really chase birds or can't get, be aggressive, then I do that. I sit down and I just wait them out. If I'm hunting on a little bit bigger property and I can move around a bit, and if there are a lot of turkeys there and I can, if I'm a little too aggressive and accidentally bump one, and I know there are other ones out there that can be chased, then I'm not as passive when it comes to, tactics. But yeah, just every situation is different for me. And I just kind of read the situation and decide whether I want to be more aggressive or be more passive and sit in one spot for lengthy periods or whatever. I do fan every once in a while. That's not my favorite way to do it. I prefer to sit up against an oak tree and watch one come strutting down the gun barrel. But I have done the fanning deal. I've done that in the past. And whenever I feel like it's a safe situation to do it, I still do it, and will continue to do it, but it has to be the right scenario.
Now, are you more of a slate call or box call guy or diaphragm, or do you kind of mix it up and just kind of go with whatever's working that day? Do you have a preference?
No, I use different ones. I'm primarily a diaphragm mouth call guy. On windy days, I'll use a box call, or when I'm locating, I'll sometimes use a box call. I do carry slates, but I don't use them that frequently. I just prefer the hands-free aspect of the mouth call, and I typically don't use the slate call unless I can't get any response from the mouth call or those times where I need to get a little bit louder. But I just prefer the mouth call, and that's what I'm personally best at. I'm better with the mouth call than I am with the friction calls, that are available and that are out there. But yeah, no, I know a lot of people who are just as good or sound just as good on friction calls than, really good mouth callers out there. So it just depends on what everybody is best at as far as what the best option or is for them. But for me, a mouth call is typically what I use.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to work in the friction calls a little bit more this season and trying to work on those. But it's funny, I found it easier and got better at calling quicker with the diaphragm calls, and then just getting different ones and working on your range and trying to extend your range, the diaphragm call, than I got with the friction.
Mm-hmm. Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and there's a lot of times, as I'm sure there's times whenever a bird doesn't want to respond to a mouth call or a diaphragm, and then you pull out a slate call or a box call or some other type of friction call, and immediately you get a response. So it's all about finding what that turkey likes or what he wants to hear. There's been plenty of times where I've even switched from one mouth call to another that had a little bit different sound, a little bit different pitch, or always the same cadence though.
Yep.
But and then you make that switch, and then one turns on. So it doesn't always mean, you might sound the best on one of your calls and can't get a response out of it, and then you switch to one that you might feel like you're not quite as proficient at, or you don't think sounds quite as good to you, and the turkeys absolutely eat it up. So I always carry a good number of calls on me. That way, if they're not responding, then you can kind of switch it up and hopefully strike them with something else. But yeah, I do carry a lot of them, but my go-to is always a mouth call, and then, and transition from there if that's not working for me.
Definitely. Now, are you strictly shotgun too? Have you taken any turkeys with a bow?
I have taken a couple with a bow, not in the springtime. My archery hunting has always been in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
I've never taken a turkey in the spring with a bow, though. I've always chased them with a shotgun. I enjoy the challenge of hunting with a bow, but I just prefer the shotgun. Prefer the shotgun in the springtime.
Definitely.
Because again, it goes back to my style of hunting. I like to be a little bit more aggressive, running and gunning. And it's a little harder to do that with a bow. A lot of the times you got to be pretty stationary because you got to be pretty well brushed in, either in a blind or set up somewhere with a lot of cover around you to be able to pull off the bow hunting in the springtime, or even the fall for that matter. But so because of that, because I do like to run and gun, and because I typically hunt with family members, and that's a part of it too. There's four of us, myself, my father, and grandfather, and my uncle. I hunt with other people too, but those are the ones that I primarily hunt with, and so we generally hunt together and trying to kill more than multiple birds in a day to get up more than just one person one if we can. Never works out that way, but we try. And so we usually always pack the shotguns just for that aspect of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely a lot of fun when you can have that family aspect that you guys have going on there.
Yeah, it does. It makes it fun. That's probably one of one of the biggest aspects for me. I just enjoy that dynamic. You know, I mean, hunting would still be hunting without that part of it, but it wouldn't quite be the same. So yeah, we definitely try to take advantage of that. Enjoy hunting with each other any chance that we can.
Awesome. Now, I know, you know, like you say, you get to do this professionally, you know, professional in the industry and everything. What I find and what is always kind of interesting to me is like when you guys are out in the field, you know, taking pictures or filming your hunts and stuff, do you always carry your camera? Like, is there a time where you go and you're like, I just want to hunt. I don't want to have to worry about getting content or taking pictures or filming. Like, do you just go and just hunt and just like, you know, I'm going to leave the cameras at home? Or do you have to because of your job all the time?
Yeah, so for my job, as I am the associate editor and deer hunting editor for Realtree.com. The way it kind of structured, I work with a really good team of individuals. This is the long answer, but basically for Realtree.com, although I'm just as avid a turkey hunter as I am deer hunter, and I do help generate content on the turkey side, I primarily, responsibility-wise, take care of the big game stuff for Realtree. So I take care of the deer hunting content, the big game hunting content, bow hunting content, and land management content. Now, I do a lot of guns and shooting stuff too. But Steve Hickoff is our editorial director and turkey hunting editor. So he heads up turkey content, small game content, predator content, and he also helps out with the guns and shooting side. But so when it comes to Realtree.com written content, and your just average post, your how-to content, your written content, photography, he heads up the turkey content for that side of it. But when it comes to video stuff, video content and that medium, I generally am the person who kind of helps head that up. So when it comes to spring turkey, the content that I'm generally creating or helping to manage is the video side of it. And while Steve is obviously his point for that too, that's the part that I help with. And so, yeah, in the springtime, I'm generally out filming hunts for Realtree and Texas and Tennessee and Kentucky. I've had a string of bad luck. I've filmed 7 straight hunts this spring and not one of them usable. But
Wow.
I think there were seven, and it generally doesn't happen that way. There's, you know, usually you have your mishaps, but I think, let me see here. Yeah, 7. There was one in Texas. I filmed a guy, and I won't name any names, but I filmed a guy missing Texas. Who was in the industry, and then I filmed 5 straight hunts in Tennessee, and I was not hunting on these hunts, but I was just a camera guy filming other people. But I think I filmed 2 misses in Tennessee. I filmed 2 turkeys that were killed prematurely while they were in view for the for the hunter. They weren't in view for the camera, and they pulled the trigger before I said to pull the trigger. And so there was 2 killed while they were behind trees from my point of view. And then another turkey was shot while it was in full strut and it was kind of looking away from us, and you could barely see its head. So that wasn't a good shot and wasn't going to be usable footage that we wanted to promote, because we didn't want to promote someone taking a low odds shot like that with a turkey being in full strut, quartering away and only barely being able to see its head. So that's tough. And then I filmed a youth hunt in Kentucky this past weekend, Saturday actually. And of course I was not in the least bit upset because the kid got his first turkey, but he ended up pulling the trigger while it was out of view of the camera too. But so yeah, I do that. I say all of that to say that I do film and generate a lot of content in the springtime. Whenever it comes to our personal hunting, which our regular season starts this coming weekend, I probably won't pack a camera this weekend just because that's going to be us getting out there having fun. But generally, whenever we're out there, somebody's using the camera. But again, I don't know if we'll pack one this weekend. We'll see.
Gotcha. And that's a good point that you brought up that I think a lot of people don't understand if you're not in the industry, or if you're just not, you know, around like television production or, you know, things like that. You know, by the time you get to consume the content, once it's, you know, on, you know, social media, on your favorite, you know, hunting TV show and stuff, there are a lot of hours, a lot of man hours that go into those hunts and being out in the field, and a lot of stuff that is left on the cutting board, and a lot of misses and a lot of unsuccessful hunts before you get that final product. I think a lot of people just think that, you know, you just go out there and in 30 minutes, you know, because you put a 30-minute show or, you know, 15, 20-minute piece of content together, that, oh, well, that's all that happened and it's that easy. No, it's not at all. So
that's exactly right.
So I'm glad you made that. You made that point because, like I said, I've talked to people working in television myself, and just always talking to people, and they're like, well, for like a sporting event, like if a game's at 7:00, we're there at like 12:30, and they're like, well, why do you got to be there so early? It's like, what do you think? Just because when you walk through the door, or when you cut on the TV, at 6:10 or at 6:50 or whatever, there's work to be done so we can get all the cameras and get everything out so you can watch and enjoy your game. You just don't show up when the game starts and then just start working it. So
right.
So I guess
that's a great point.
I can certainly appreciate doing that. But having said that, as we both know, part of the joy is being out there, and especially in your case, getting to go out on hunts and being out in the woods. I mean, that's not a bad deal if you can get it.
No, it's fun, and the video side's not my primary duty. Again, I'm primarily a writer and editor. I help create and manage content, but that naturally, involves video content as well, especially in today's age.
Right.
But yeah, it's fun, and it's. I will say that I'm extremely blessed to have had the opportunity to work for Realtree that I have, and it's a great company with people, and they make it fun, keep it interesting, and but it's been a good journey, and it's just the outdoor industry in general is just a great place to be, as I'm sure and being a part of it and being integrated into it as you are. Most people that you come across in the industry, they enjoy what they're doing. They're happy people, and generally happy people are fun people to be around. So yeah, it's been good.
That's correct. That is correct. Now, let's back up a little bit, because you said, your primary gig is writing and, writing content. When you were in high school, did you have like a aha moment or like a experience that was like, yep, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life? Like, what was there one thing that you can pinpoint that translated that? Like, when did that light bulb turn on for you?
Yeah, it was again back when I was in school, and of course I did pretty well in school. I wasn't the smartest kid, but I wasn't the dumbest kid either. So I just tried to analyze what my strengths were in high school, or especially later on in high school. I realized that probably my strongest points were the English language and language arts, and also media, whether it's video, photography, whatever the case. Those are my strong suits and some of my strongest skill sets, just in general. And I just tried to apply that to the industry, the outdoor industry, and that's kind of how it took off. Now I will say that there was a whole lot of rejection early on. I think I couldn't tell you. I can't even remember how many rejections I probably got when it came to trying to get my first article written, trying to get my first piece published. I probably was rejected 20 or 30 times at least before I finally got one accepted by a publication. And but once you got that first one going, it just kind of snowballed from there. And a big part of that is, as it is with any industry or any profession, is just networking and getting to know people. Sadly, in this world, it's not just what you're capable of. It is, in fact, who you know in a lot of cases. So who you know will get you there, and what you know will keep you there. But it was tough early on trying to get published. But once it got going, it kind of snowballed from there and really just grew from that point.
Yeah. Did you also go to college as well, or did you just, once you got out of high school, did you just start freelancing?
Yeah, I started out at Western Kentucky University in their journalism program, and I think I was there for 2.5 years. And while I was in college, the National Wild Turkey Federation offered me a position in the communications and marketing department down there, and so I moved to South Carolina for 2 years and lived there, and they were gracious enough to allow me to finish my degree while working full-time for them. So I'd work during the day and take classes at night, and I ended up finishing my degree and actually finished the communications program at USC down there in South Carolina.
Nice. There you go. I graduated from Carolina in Columbia in 2000.
Nice.
And I was born and raised, as most people who listen to my podcast knows, I was born and raised in South Carolina, a little town called Tibbetsville, outside of Florence and Darlington.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm familiar with the NWTF down there in Edgefield. I actually want to take a trip down there over the summer because I know they got like some interactive kind of things, and you can actually go and tour the place. So okay, all right, now we're getting. We should have covered this part in the beginning.
There we go. Yeah. I thought you might be a Gamecock, but I wasn't sure.
Oh yeah, no, die hard, good and bad, ups and downs. Like I said, I graduated from Columbia in May of 2000, and then I grew up in South Carolina. So yeah, it's in my blood. So when you were taking classes, did you take classes at USC Aiken or?
Yeah, that's correct, because that was the closest campus to where I was at.
Yep.
And that is correct. But yeah, to the point of Edgefield, the National Turkey Federation headquarters, they have a phenomenal campus there. Of course, that is where the headquarters, as you alluded to, that's where the headquarters is at. But they also have some really cool stuff there. I mean, it's not just office space. They have the museum for those who have not been there. It is a great place to go. You can go tour the museum. It's probably the coolest turkey-only museum I've ever been to. All the history, the whole restoration period, just basically anything you want to know about turkeys, you can, or turkey history, you can learn it or find it in that building, in that museum. There's, they have all the different turkey oddities. A lot of people may not be familiar with all of the rarities and oddities that can be found within the wild turkey species. But there are some interesting things that can be found on or in a turkey. And so they have all of those rare oddity things that show up within the wild turkey. Trait-wise, that they have them all on display there. So there's tons of stuff there. They have a lot of call-making history product-wise there. There's just tons and tons of stuff. Very good educational opportunity for those who enjoy hunting turkeys. They also have the new Palmetto Shooting Complex, which don't quote me on it, but I think this is correct. I think it's the largest shooting complex east of the Mississippi River. You may be able to confirm that. I'm pretty sure that's at least that was the case when I worked there. I think that, of course, that whenever I left there, it was back in 2015, but I think that's still the case.
Yeah, I remember reading that not too long ago, and I said because, going, back home, I still have family at home in the Thamesville and Florence area, so, we cross over the border and go through Augusta and, past Aiken and all that all the time, and I said I was going to stop down there and check it out because of the shooting complex and all the stuff that you just mentioned, like all the history and the call making and things like that, because like you said, it's more than an office space. It's basically the turkey version of what that Bass Pro Shop is in Memphis, where you have like all the history of like duck calls and duck making and stuff, duck call making, and the history of duck hunting at the Pyramid Bass Pro Shop in Memphis. From what I understand, that's what that museum in Edgefield at the NWTF offices is like. And so, yeah, I definitely want to check it out over the summer.
Very cool. Very cool. Absolutely. It's a great place to be. Great place to go.
Now, a couple more here for you as far as like your experience in writing and things that you've done with Realtree. As far as being in the field, what is your most memorable hunt or the hunt that sticks out to you the most?
Well, it's hard to choose. Now, I've been fortunate to get to go places and hunt deer and turkey in other places, other states, even other countries. In the case of mule deer, I was able to hunt up in Canada. But, even though I've been able to do those things, I still would rather hunt right here at home with family. And I know that might sound weird. That might even sound selfish. But, growing up, I dreamed about getting to go hunt other places. And don't get me wrong, it's been fun, it's been great. I wouldn't take that back, and I most certainly appreciate those opportunities. But having said that, it still doesn't compare to being able to hunt right here at home with family and friends where you grew up hunting. And again, that might not be the answer that some people would expect, but hunting right here at home with family, that's probably my favorite. Now, being able to go abroad outside of Kentucky, I would say that again, it's hard to rank them, but I had a really, really fun public land. Well, it's technically not public land. It was a walk-in hunting area, which is kind of like, if you're familiar with Kansas, it's kind of like public land. It's private land that's been put into public land by private landowners temporarily. But, properties come and go within that program. But I was able to hunt a walk-in hunting area there in Kansas, and we hunted quite a few of them, actually. But I had a pretty memorable turkey hunt out there a few years ago.
Nice.
That was probably ranked as far as turkeys I've been able to kill. I had a really fun hunt in Illinois, where I took a really nice turkey a few years ago as well, even before the Kansas deal. On the deer side, I would say probably Of course, I do a lot of hunting in Ohio. I do a little bit in Indiana. Those are kind of my core areas whenever I hunt here at home, and that's all strictly DIY, public land or private land. But either way, I'm the one doing the work. I'm not, relying on someone else to help me get on a deer.
Right.
And so that's where I do most of my hunting is right here deer-wise is Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana. But I would say going outside of that, the Alberta mule deer hunt that I went on ranks high on the deer side and had a pretty memorable hunt for whitetails in South Dakota. I would say those two trips are probably my most memorable whitetail hunts, outside of my home core area here.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about Alberta. I've goose hunted and duck hunted a little bit, but mostly goose hunted in Illinois, so I can definitely co-sign with you there, especially when I'm up here during my basketball season in Milwaukee. It's an easy drive right across the border to get there, and it's really some really great goose hunting. And I think, to your point about being able to hunt, with family and friends, I think that's why I enjoy those Illinois goose hunts, because over the last couple of years, I've made some, really cool hunting buddies on those hunts. But I totally get what you're saying about, hunting at home. It's kind of like, you tell people if you got a chance to leave and get out and see things and even in hunting, if you get to go to hunt other places and stuff, that's great. But if you got your own or you got like a nice core area at home, just like anything else, nothing beats home.
That's right. Absolutely.
Josh, I appreciate you taking the time today, man. Tell the people where they can find you, on Instagram, your social media, your blog, let folks know where they can get at you at.
Yeah, they can check us out at Realtree.com. It's not just me. We have a big team, really good team of outdoor communicators there at Realtree.com. Myself, again, I head up deer and big game, bow hunting content. Steve, he heads up small game and turkey. Stephanie Mallory, she is our PR person, and she also does a lot of blogging on Realtree.com. Brian Levitt's our waterfowl editor. You can go check out all of his waterfowl content at Realtree.com. Michael Penley, he is our resident chef. You can go check out and get any kind of recipe for wild game that you can dream up. He has it there on the Timber to Table blog on Realtree.com. Bill, we have other people on our team as well that handle specific areas. But yeah, you can check anything out that you want hunt-wise or any kind of content that you want to consume. You can get it right there on Realtree.com. You can also check us out on Realtree Outdoors Facebook page, Instagram page. And if you just want more personalized stuff to what I'm specifically doing, you can look me up on Instagram at Josh__Honeycutt.
Awesome. Josh, thank you again, man. And hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It was an honor and a privilege to be on your show.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. Once again, thanks to Josh Honeycutt for stopping by the Bryant Land Country Podcast. Really enjoyed talking to him, and hopefully we can get him back on in the near future. Before I get on out of here, I just want to throw out a couple of things at you. Make sure you're checking out the BryantLandCountry.com webpage, BryantLandCountry.com. Make sure you click on the shop tab. Go pick you up some Bryant Land merch. We got the Hey Turkey t-shirts. We got the Bryant Land Country Podcast t-shirts. Make sure you stop by there and pick you up one. We also got hats, we got hoodies, we got t-shirts. So make sure you check out the shop tab on BryantLandCountry.com and pick you up some merch. Also, on the BryantLandCountry.com page, we got our videos, past videos that we've put together. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys for your support. Thank you for listening to the Bryant Land Country Podcast, and I'll catch you next week on another episode of the Bryant Land Country Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Bryant Land Country Podcast, hosted by AB3. Please leave us a positive review and 5-star rating on iTunes. Be sure to check out our podcast section on our website, BryantLandCountry.com, for previous podcasts. Check us out on Instagram at Official Bryant Land and Twitter at 3BryantLand. This has been an AB3 Media production. Join us next time for another edition of the Bryant Land Country Podcast.